So the iPhone 7 doesn't connect to the MacBook Pro out of the box. First world problem, or is this Apple trying to get its customer to buy more extra stuff? Hey, it's Mike from Go Cell Phone Repair, and this is the Phonecast for August 31st, 2016. You can hear this in its audio format by visiting iTunes or the Google Music Play Store, or just click the link down in the description below. So today we are talking about Apple and why Apple has decided to produce two pieces of technology that don't exactly fit together right out of the box. So if you've got an iPhone 7, you've got the new MacBook Pro, they don't connect with the Lightning port that you are supplied with the phone because, of course, the MacBook Pro has gone to USB-C only. So why do we have two different products from the same company that aren't working together? Is this intentional, or is it just one of those things where we're caught between a transition from one type of technology to the next? Doesn't really matter, but I think the real question is, if they don't work out of the box, why isn't this adapter supplied so that you can take your existing product from Apple and plug it into the new MacBook Pro? Doesn't make a lot of sense unless they are blatantly just trying to sell more accessories. The thing is that if you even dare to question something that Apple does, no matter what it is, you are bound to get lots and lots of comments like this one. I love all the people complaining about dongles. Like, is this the first year you've been involved with tech? Standards change constantly. And that means adapting load things into the new standards. Okay, I don't know what that means. And that means you have to have a way to make the adaptation. And you're blank right, that means dongles and adapters, and that's just the way technology has been for as long as the computer has existed, and that's the way it's going to continue to be for some time. And people who pretend that this is something new that Apple has done were clearly people who have no idea what the blank they're talking about. Those are exactly the kind of people who can be ignored, and that's how to weed useless people out of your life. So there you have it. If anyone ever questions what Apple is doing, you can just assume that's a useless person and they don't need to be any part of your life anymore. Goodbye. It's time to move on to people who understand dongles. I'm not sure what a lot of that text meant. Some of it made sense, some of it didn't. Obviously, this is the way computers have always been. So this guy has been around since the beginning of computers, or at least he knows his computer history really well. And of course, on the other side, we have people saying things like Apple has gone from it just works to it just works as long as you have the right adapter to make it work. And remember the Apple Mouse? That was one of the other items that they produced that just didn't really make a lot of sense at the time. You know, you've got a wireless mouse that charges on the underside of the mouse. So basically, you take the entire piece of equipment out of commission in order to recharge the battery, where most wireless mice have a cord that plugs in on one of the sides or even on the top, so you can continue to use it while it's charging. Never understood exactly why that happened. So is this, of course, a transition or just a money grab by Apple? Well, if you take a look at their history, things like the U2 IC we had starting with the iPhone 5, where it detects a non-OEM charger and can basically damage your phone to the point where it doesn't work or it won't charge anymore. And this is all based on a chip built into your iPhone that detects that you're not using an OEM or an MFI, which is made for iPhone certified cable, which coincidentally means Apple gets paid. So if you have an MFI made for iPhone certified product that you want to sell, you get to pay Apple a commission every time you make that sale. Now, I don't have that number. I don't know exactly what it is. It is part of their non-disclosure agreement. And until you get your item either registered or certified by Apple, they don't really tell you how much that is. But you can assume that it's a decent amount of money, because if you take a look at anything that's MFI, you'll see that the prices are significantly higher. But okay, I'm getting sidetracked a little bit here. But the other thing is the headphone jack on the iPhone 7 kind of falls into that same situation where if you want to plug a headset jack in, or if you want to plug a headset into your iPhone, it's got to connect to the Lightning port as of the iPhone 7 and above, I would assume. And the problem with that is that most headphone jacks, of course, are a 3.5 connection. So if you want an adapter to plug one into the other, guess what? You can either buy it from Apple or you can buy one that is MFI made for iPhone. And again, they get a piece of that commission. So what that means is anytime you want to use your phone, it's becoming more and more like you have to pay or buy from the original manufacturer. And this is kind of going on in a number of different industries, but the one that we're concerned with, of course, is wireless. Now, if there's a simple solution to this, I think it's why didn't Apple just include the USB-C connector for the iPhone 7 if they knew that was a plan for the MacBook Pro. Or was that the plan for the MacBook Pro? Maybe they didn't know at the time, but I'm very suspicious about this because having these two flagship models that are launched during the same year, Apple usually has a little R&D up beforehand. They kind of know what's coming down the line. So it's my assumption that they probably could have just included a Lightning connector that goes to USB-C, or put USB-C onto the iPhone 6. Either way, I don't know, but since the beginning, it's been this way because if you remember, a few years ago, we had different phones, different manufacturers that had different chargers for every one of their phones, and it was just a big mess, and we decided somehow that the entire system was going to be cleaned up and that everyone would go to micro USB, which I'm not a huge fan of micro USB. I don't think it's the best design really for a charging port, but it's what everyone within the industry went with and decided to make the standard, except, of course, Apple, which means if you buy any of their products, you can't just use it interchangeably with anyone else's charger, although you can pretty much do that with just about any other phone. So was the Lightning port so much better than USB that it justified switching that over to something totally different, or were they just not wanting to allow you to use aftermarket products or products from other manufacturers with Apple devices? Also, the AirPods have no playback controls. Now, I did not buy the iPhone 7. I looked at it, and personally, I really didn't see anything exciting or new about it. It still doesn't have NFC. It still doesn't have infrared. So those are two things that I really like about my current phone that I'm using, and they're not built into the iPhone. Unfortunately, I'd like to have the iPhone 7 just to have it so I can take it apart, honestly. But the fact that it doesn't have those two things is kind of a big negative for me. One, I use wireless charging for everything, and also having your remote control built into your phone is awesome, especially if you're traveling. You can not only control the TVs in every room in your house, you can also control the TVs just about anywhere you go, assuming they use an infrared remote and you have line of sight. So that can also lead up to some very entertaining pranks, but be warned, you can get in trouble for doing stuff like that. Don't go around turning off people's TVs without their permission. I'm not going to be held responsible for that. There may be some legal implications there, and you might get some pretty angry people, especially if you change a channel at a crucial moment. Now, I don't have a problem with Apple products in general. I mean, I've been working on them since the very first iPhone came out. They do make a good quality product. There have been a few things here and there that I question, but nobody's perfect. All around, for the most part, obviously they wouldn't have gotten as far as they have so far if they made cheap products that fell apart. But what I don't like is the answer that I get for every question that I have about Apple products, because if I say, hey, this isn't working right, the response is usually, well, you're not using it properly, or you don't understand it, or you need to buy this other thing to make it work, whether it's software that I need so it will support some other type of program, or a special adapter to make it interface with, whatever it is I want to connect it to. It's crazy that they always have to have their own way of doing things. I understand that builds brand loyalty, because once you get an Apple device, it kind of tends to make you want to buy several other Apple devices because they all work together so nicely. That is with the exception of the iPhone 7 and the MacBook Pro, which obviously don't plug in right out of the box. It just seems crazy to me. A couple years ago, I broke down and bought my very first Apple laptop. And, obviously making a transition from Windows over to OS X took a little time, but, I got to the point where I can use it. And when people ask me how I feel about it, I got to say the main things I liked about the MacBook Pro is that it's lightweight. The battery lasts a decent amount of time. They've got good video editing programs that you can get for it. But outside of that, honestly, I don't use it for a lot of things. When it comes down to it, the ergonomics and the battery are the two things I love about it the most. For anything else, it doesn't really do a lot of the stuff that I would like it to. Again, I'm sure I could fix that by buying a whole bunch of extra stuff or figuring out a way to install Windows on a MacBook, but that kind of defeats the purpose of buying that machine in the first place. It was actually running pretty decent too until I updated to Mavericks, and now it runs like crap. So here's a tip for just about any device that you have, whether it's a computer or a phone. Don't rush to upgrade your device until you are certain that the new operating system or the new version of software is going to be compatible and optimized for your phone. As a technician, I can tell you one thing I see all the time is people bringing in their iPhones that used to work great, but after about a year and a half to 2 years, the new software that the new iOS that they're pushing to these devices just isn't made for them. It's like they can't handle it. In fact, when I looked at iOS 10, it takes up 1.2 gigs of space, and I don't have anything near that to spare on my phone, so I had to keep clicking no. Finally, I figured out the way to disable the updates. You can do that in your settings so it doesn't automatically push them to your phone and install it. And in addition to that, a lot of times major upgrades are going to be buggy. So if you go to iOS 9, 10, 11, whatever, there may be something really wrong initially. And until they figure that out, I wouldn't rush to upgrade it because occasionally, a worst case scenario, your phone may be bricked. And the next worst case scenario probably is that the patch is not available or the servers are overloaded and you can't download what you need to make your phone work again. So just a bit of advice there. If I were you, I'd wait a week or two. I know a lot of people want to be on the cutting edge and they can't wait for the new updates to come out. So if you do, obviously you do that at your own risk because most of this stuff is untested for the most part on a broad level. They may do it at the Apple, at the headquarters, they might check it out on a few phones. They might do a field test, but until you push this software to a couple million users, you really don't know what the potential for problems is going to be. The other reason I didn't buy the iPhone 7 is mainly because the 32 gig version apparently doesn't run as fast as the 128 gig version. Now, obviously, it would be nice to have that extra storage, but I just don't like the fact that you have to pay more for the upgraded model in order to get the full potential of that phone. It's, why do I need to go 4 times as much storage and pay more money if they're basically both the same phone outside of the storage? At least that was the idea in the beginning. Now, the good news is, as far as the Hissgate goes, it's probably nothing to worry about. It sounds like it's probably just some components on the inside that are creating an electromagnetic field, and anything that's susceptible to electromagnetic forces tends to be affected by that. And it happens a lot on computer motherboards. You have 2 things next to each other that will generate a sort of hissing or humming noise based on those electromagnetic fields. Again, usually not very harmful, but there's also the possibility that this is happening because components are overheating due to the waterproofing. So anytime you take electronics and you waterproof them, you basically seal them up, and it becomes not as efficient as cooling down as it would be if there were some airspace or, a portal of exit for that heat to escape from. So we'll kind of see. The jury's still out on that one. Hopefully it's not going to be any problems to anyone out there. But if it is, we really want to hope that this problem develops during the warranty period. And this is the thing about phones. In fact, I found a quote recently I want to read to you in regards to this. And it says, remember, you put heat generating components near heat sensitive components so that they degrade and break. The trick is to design them close enough to break, but far enough not to break under warranty. Now, I can tell you right now from experience, I've been present at a meeting where a company was trying to get their employees to sell protection plans. Long story short is you can buy some additional coverage in case your device has problems outside of the manufacturer's warranty, which typically is going to be a 12-month period. Now, a lot of people know and understand that the majority of these protection plans are almost pure profit for the company that sells them. In other words, if you buy an extended warranty on your product, there's a good chance that you'll never use that warranty, or that when you go to use it, the problem with your device won't qualify you to be covered under that protection plan, I should call it. So when I was at this meeting, they told the employees they should get excited about selling this protection plan, and everybody just kind of went, yeah, great. And then a representative from a major manufacturer of printers in the US stood up and said, let me point something out to you real quick. And, everyone knows who this company is. I don't want to mention any names, but they make a lot of printers. This person stood up and said, you should absolutely sell protection plans on the products from my brand. And that kind of got everybody's attention. And she went on to explain that every year her company spends millions of dollars on research and development, not to develop a better printer, not to make a more efficient use of ink, not to make their products more friendly to the environment when they're disposed of, but mainly to make sure that they fail at or around the 13th month of service, which is 1 month outside the manufacturer's warranty. So this is a huge corporation that spends millions of dollars every year making sure that your device breaks after it's out of warranty. Just something to take into consideration. If you're into technology, be sure to hit the subscribe button while you're here. We have more phone casts, more tutorials, live streams, tons of phone stuff coming up soon. Oh, and happy Halloween. Thanks for watching.